Good day. Thank you for tuning in to this 2017 General Election Candidate Forum for the Port of Olympia Commissioner District 2. The forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCM. The League is a nonprofit organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties. We are nonpartisan. The League registers new voters, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with the governing bodies. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of age 16 and up. I'm Sandra Herndon from the League, and I'll be moderating this forum. The candidates for Olympia Port Commissioner District 2 are Bill McGregor and Bill Fishburne. For this forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Then I'll ask them questions in alternating order. The person first asked the question will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidate. There will be 1 minute for closing statements at the end. We'll begin with opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Bill McGregor.
Good morning, and thank you, Sandra, for hosting this, and for the League of Women Voters for putting this on. As a League member, one of the things that interests me about the League is the pursuit of civility in politics, and something I try to pursue every day. And as the League, this Port Commission is a candidate race is a nonpartisan position. And my background of 27 years in port management, working my way up from a union job to into management, as well as my 11 years as a port commissioner. I think that I have the experience that is needed to continue to move this port in the directions that it's going. We're seeing a lot of outreach into the community that we hadn't had in present times, and I think that's part of the process that I want to continue to pursue and to have impacts in all of Thurston County, because the Port of Olympia is the boundaries of Thurston County, and I think it's important. My wife and I are 35-year foster parents, having dealt with many medically fragile children over the years, and that is an important part of our community relation. And I look forward to having another election cycle, another 4 years in this position, and I'm looking forward to the confidence of the voters. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Sandra, and thank you for having us both on today. It's a real pleasure to come down and speak with the League of Women Voters. As has been said, my name is Bill Fishburne, and I'm originally from Spokane, Washington. I was born and raised here. I've been in Thurston County with my wife of 27 years since 1996. We have 3 boys and a granddaughter who's 4. We've been involved in the community in a lot of different ways, and I think taking this next step into political office is one way that I can increase the impact that I've had on this community and do some real good for the voters. The port interests me because, as Mr. McGregor said, it serves all of Thurston County. As a South County resident, I look for ways that the port can benefit those of us that live outside of Olympia city limits, and ways that it might impact the broader community and economic development for all of us. I think about opportunities for living wage jobs in a broader context, and I think about some of the growth areas that our county is facing, whether that's agricultural jobs or clean energy jobs, or even areas involving tourism, and bring more people into the county to see what we have to offer. Thurston County, I think, has a real opportunity to be a leader in a lot of different areas, and I would like to help guide it that direction.
All right. Our first question will go to Bill McGregor, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer, and then Bill Fishburne, you will have 1 minute to respond, and then we'll reverse the order for the next question. The first question: discuss your vision for the future economic health and vitality of the Port of Olympia.
Well, the economic vitality of the Port of Olympia depends on the 4 lines of businesses that we currently have. We have the marine terminal business, we have the Swantown Marina and Boat Works, we have the airport properties out there, as well as the downtown properties, and then of course we have the airport. And all 4 of those businesses are an important economic development tool that the port uses to provide family wage jobs in the community, and during the last economic benefit study, there were 4,400 jobs of family wages of at least an average of $44,000 each that are in part and parcel a port responsibility. As a willing landlord, we rent land to developing companies, and they come in, they build their business, and off they go, and they hire people, and the goal is to continue in that mode to provide jobs. The port, has a responsibility, just as cities do, to put infrastructure improvement in there to make development even a little bit more certain for developers as they come in. We have done that with the Hands-On Children's Museum properties. We've run utilities down there, and as we continue moving forward, there are other opportunities out there to do even better for this community and try to get away from our reliance so much on state government as the job producer.
You'll have 1 minute.
So it's interesting that we bring up this idea of the economic study that was done from 2014. The 4,400 jobs that are mentioned are a significant portion of the total or overall number of jobs in Thurston County, and the definitions used are so loose as to be almost meaningless in some cases. So I think as we look at health and vitality for the Port of Olympia, we have to look to the growth sectors that Thurston County itself is talking about. Again, this means jobs in clean energy, and it means jobs in agriculture as far as those growth sectors go. I think there's a real opportunity for the Port of Olympia to be involved in those things, and in terms of building out infrastructure, clean energy is a place where we look at a lot more living wage jobs than just the manufacture of solar panels or installing them in a few parking lots. We have a real opportunity there to build out, bring that energy, whether it's solar or otherwise, back into the grid.
Thank you. The second question, we'll start with you, Bill Fishburne, and then for 2 minutes, and then we'll move to Bill McGregor. Other ports, such as Allen and Seattle, have diversified their economic development portfolios into non-traditional areas, such as historic preservation and tourism. Do you see the Port of Olympia diversifying its portfolio into non-traditional areas, and if so, which ones?
I do see the port diversifying its portfolio into non-traditional areas. I think I've said this a couple of times now in terms of growth sectors for Thurston County and what's been published in Thurston County's own studies. We have to be looking at places that we have not looked in the past. Something in terms of a traditional aspect of our port that I continue to be asked by voters when I'm out doorbelling is about the vitality or viability of commercial airline at the airport. And I think that's really traditional, something we can look at. But in terms of non-traditional, again, I go back to clean energy. We have a lot of properties at the airport. Very few of them, if any, at the airport itself have solar panels on them. And I think the port started to do something at the clean water properties where they were engaging with solar and trying to put it in just the parking lots. But I think we really need to look at how do we build out those growth sector jobs and provide opportunities for all of Thurston County.
Thank you. Well, let me talk a little bit about the two ports you mentioned. Allen is a very, very small port, has very, very limited infrastructure, and of course Seattle is a very, very large port, and their recent collaboration with the Port of Tacoma has turned all the marine terminal sections of both businesses into the Port Northwest Seaport Alliance. I think there are some non-traditional opportunities for us. I think you've seen some of them already. Some of those are, example is the farmers market. Ports are not allowed to do a farmers market, yet we collaborated many years ago with the City of Olympia to lease that land to them so that they can in turn give the farmers market an opportunity to do that, and it's turned out to be a marvelous thing. The other thing is collaboration with cities. There's many small cities out there, and we're doing that as we branch out our net of influence in this community. Through the Small Cities Program, we provide money to them for them to do economic development opportunities that make sense for them. What's in our toolbox is the ability to provide that money to them, and I think that as we collaborate more with those cities, we're going to see greater economic opportunities in that regard.
Right, thank you. This question will go to you, Bill. When is it appropriate and legal to have closed sessions? How can the port be as transparent as possible?
Well, as you know, in the RCWs, the ports are allowed to have executive sessions on certain things, such as property selling or property acquisitions. There's the basically personnel matters, as we do a review of the executive director or any other personnel matter that comes up, or litigation that comes from a group or entities that have filed a lawsuit. We're allowed to have our executive sessions to talk about those. Those are kept very confidential. Opening those up to the public as we reach agreements on things, and any decisions that are made in regard to any of those legal issues that could come up all have to be made, of course, and taken action in public session. We had the Citizens Advisory Committee do a complete report about, 2010 on transparency and how we could improve. They gave us some recommendations. We took those, and then just recently, about 2 years ago, we had them go back through that to see how we have done, and that there are other ways of improving our transparency to the public. We always allow public comment at our regularly scheduled meetings. Everyone gets 3 minutes, and if we need to extend past that, we can add a public comment period at the end of the meeting so people can have a chance to say what they want to say.
All right.
So in terms of appropriate and legal, I think it's almost always appropriate. I think it's almost never appropriate or legal to have closed sessions. We have a recent court decision from the Supreme Court that actually said for ports we have to have more of our sessions open to the public. We have to have executive sessions open to the public. I think the one exception that they allow is in terms of negotiating prices, and that's so that the ports can maintain their competitive edge. That is probably the one instance where it is appropriate and legal, in my opinion, to go behind closed doors and have discussions without the involvement of the public. In terms of transparency and recommendations, I think our port has an opportunity to expand its transparency in terms of public comment. We recently removed verbatim transcripts from minutes, and I think if we were to go back to that and provide that to the public in terms of the printed minutes, that would be reaching back into our past and providing an improvement for our public transparency.
Right, thank you. The third question, we'll start with you, Bill McGregor. When is it appropriate? Oh, I said that, I'm sorry. We'll start with you. I jumped ahead. Given the port's financial situation, what are your funding priorities and how would you plan to balance the budget?
Yeah, so I think it's part of the public knowledge at this point that the port is approximately $50 million in debt. That includes $42 million that they're showing in their own on their own books in the public record. There's a $6 million line of credit through a bank, and then a little over $2 million for a fuel dock that we recently installed. Those latter two things don't show up on the books, and I'm waiting for them to show up in the public record. In terms of financial priorities, it's all four of the lines of business right now are losing money. Now, it's said that they're losing money because of depreciation. And I guess my concern is if it's depreciation, then why do we continue to take taxes from the public in terms of trying to pay the debt down? I think there's a lot more questions there than answers for me. But in terms of priorities, we need to look at each of those lines of business, figure out what the current state assessment is, and figure out, are there ways that we can improve those lines of business given what they're doing today compared to what they could be doing. And an example might be something very simple at the airport where there's a wide variety of rates being charged. If there's some way to synthesize those rates and make them more appropriate across the board, whether that's some kind of a progressive rate structure for tenancy or issues like that, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I think we have to look into that, and we have to look at ways of making each of the lines of credit solvent without reliance on taxpayers.
Thank you. The port has been reported is about $50 million in debt. So what is some of the debt that it has used that money for. $26 million of that has been used for environmental cleanup purposes throughout the port, including Cascade Pole, which has been in perpetuity, I can never say it, forever, will be cleaned up until DOE gives us their blessings on it. I don't see that happening in my lifetime, but that's kind of the money that is being used. It's used for putting in infrastructure. There's a lot of infrastructure needs that the port has. Funding priorities is to try to get more volume across the marine terminal. The marine terminal is actually the cash cow. That if we're moving cargo across that dock, the depreciation is spread over a much greater volume of cargo, and therefore you have more revenue coming in. Right now, on a cash flow basis, we're positive on each one of those businesses that I talked about. So when you throw depreciation in, that's when it does it. So.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for another question. What project ideas do you have to make the port property profitable without harming the environment? And in order to make this level between you, since we'll only have this one additional, let's do 1 minute per person.
Okay. You want me to go first? Or
sure, you can go first.
Well, I think that there's several project ideas. One of the items that was mentioned earlier was tourism. And one of the things I've worked on very hard with the staff over the last 3 years was to identify a cruise ship line that would like to come into Puget Sound, that is in Puget Sound operating, but is never called the Port of Olympia or our capital. And I saw that as an opportunity to try to persuade them to come down. If they're going to Port Angeles and Port Townsend and some of the other small cities or smaller ports, then why are they not coming down here? And I think that we're going to start seeing that in May and then again in October as these ships reposition throughout the cruise line period or season. So that's one. Another one is more volume across the dock. I'm adamant that the marine terminal is here to stay, and I think that doing the proper marketing that we've needed to do, we're going to see more cargoes moving across the dock.
So projects that I think might make us more profitable. We've, as we've been going through these candidate forums and we've been talking about RCWs, the thing that interests me is the legislature has made the RCW that governs ports and its operations actually more open, and it's tried to make things less restrictive for ports to do business in their own communities. And so one of the things I think we need to look at is the idea of a public internet. Now, it's been argued that public internet is more the realm of a PUD, but we have to start talking to our other local jurisdictions, our other local government forms, and figuring out, is there a way that we can bring something like a public internet to Thurston County to provide living wage jobs, to provide a competitor to Comcast, and to do something that benefits all of Thurston County.
And now we'll have our closing statements from the two candidates. Bill Fishburne, let's start with you this time. Thank
you very much. I think if I were to talk about some kind of a summary here, I would say that there are really three major issues facing the port. It's about fiscal responsibility, economic development, and environmental stewardship. If I wrap all of those into one clean bundle, I think we can improve them with the word inclusivity. The more that we include the public, the more that we include comment from the people that the port is supposed to benefit, the better solutions we're going to have at the port, and the better chance we have of moving our port into the 21st century. My name is Bill Fishburne. I'm running for Port Commissioner in District 2, and I'd appreciate your support on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this again. I would just like to refer people to my website, peopleforbillmcgregor.net, and you can see a list of accomplishments. It's not an inclusive list, but it is. And I'd also encourage you to look at my endorsements from this is a nonpartisan position, and I have very high-ranking Rs, very high-ranking Ds, and very high-ranking Is that have all given me their support during this campaign, as well as many, many different organizations, and they're all listed on my endorsement page. I look forward to serving this community another 4 years, and hopefully the important thing is to get out and vote, and I would encourage everyone to do that. I think you still have time to register, if I'm not mistaken, so please take the opportunity. It's important, and local leaders affect you immensely.
Thank you for participating in the League of Women Voters General Election Forum for Olympia Port Commissioner Position 2. We encourage viewers to vote in the general election on or before November 7th, 2017. The League particularly thanks TC Media for their ongoing support and assistance.